Brilliant. I see the screen there. Hello everyone. I'm going to turn off my camera just in case there's actually poor net connection. If at any point I'm not clear, talking too fast, or any issues at all, please do let me know and I will rectify that. So yes, my name is Thomas and I'm here with Jerris. We've been working with OPM supporting openIMIS on this project, which was a very relatively short project to map the existing functional requirements of dynamic social registries and integrated beneficiary registries, looking at existing systems that have been deployed, looking at the literature that's been developed, particularly the World Bank and Digital Convergence Initiative documentation, and also doing a number of key informants on that with different key stakeholders. The purpose of why this piece of work has been scoped is due to the growing use cases and deployments of integrated beneficiary registries and social registries around the world. And I mean, obviously I don't need to say this to you guys, this team, but it's doing, with the drive towards universal social protection by 2020-30, there's a greater request and demand for these systems that can bring together these very divergent social protection systems and enable a consolidated view or consolidated registration portals. So the purpose of this requirements mapping was to create a common understanding of SR and IBR needs. It was to provide that baseline grounding to support future development discussions, to provide guidance for implementers, but it is crucially saying that when we tried to do this, we tried to not prescribe specific solutions. And all of these requirements have been put up on the wiki, and the aim here is for people to comment on these requirements, to say, actually, I think we've missed points or different elements there, so that we can try and build consensus on the core functions, if that makes sense. And really getting into this, I mean, I mentioned this before, but when we're talking about IBR, integrated beneficiary registries or social registries, we're talking about them as components of a larger digital social protection ecosystem or delivery system that they would be taking part of there. So in many cases when we were mapping the functional requirements, the requirement of the system is that it integrates with a unique identification system, or that it has API interoperability to a grievance redressal mechanism, not that the system itself has those components in-house. So very briefly here, again, all the details are provided on the wiki, but what we have done is, for the social SR and IBR, we identified a total of 102 detailed functional requirements. The social registry had 52 functional requirements across 7 functional areas. The IBR had 50 functional requirements across 8 functional areas. Now, the entire document written out, as you've already shared, is 110 pages. So we've tried to be as detailed as possible. And we've tried to do that by, for each functional requirement, identifying what is the functional requirement. For example, this is a requirement of the SR, social registry, for bulk data upload. So we try to map what is the level of importance, where in the social protection delivery chain would it be placing? If you were to deploy it, is it a must-have or is it a nice-to-have component? What's the justification? Why have we seen this being used? And what are the specific use cases? What are the data elements required? And then what are the technical specifications? And particularly when we try to get into technical specifications, we try to really look at what are the minimum specifications, as in what is the basic specification that it needs to provide that function. What is the standard specifications that when we look at case studies, well, this is probably where we would expect a developed system to be able to have these components. And then what would be the advanced specification? So what would be the next step or the element step if we really want to divide this there? Now, what's crucial here to note is what we were trying to do by this is take the higher level definitions and understanding of what an IBR is and what an SR is, and get from that scope and take it down to a technical level. Okay, but if that is what this system is meant to do, what then actually, what tech stack, what modules, what components, what functions are going to be needed to actually enable that. Now, I'm not going to go through all 101 quickly, but I will try and give a quick overview of the key trends out of this. The first point here was what was clear when we started defining these systems or looking at them is, first of all, is that they are working in very different parts of the social protection delivery chain. So the social registry is primarily focused on outreach, intake, and assessment. It is the potential beneficiaries across a population. It can also be comprehensive social economic data of an entire population, and it's used for targeting, for almost research on what is the current situation, and for beneficiary registries to link to and maybe use for targeting for that data to go to separate beneficiary registries for programming. Its key elements is it's very much a user-facing, front-facing system. It has interactions with the actual end user, the beneficiaries. It needs multi-channel registration, and it needs to be able to consolidate and validate multiple data points from national registries, civil registries, tax authorities. So, interoperability, integration, and standardization of data frames is a critical part for the social registry, because it's often trying to take data from many different ministries and many different departments into one approach. An IBR by hand is actually after, really, it's at the maybe an enrollment, provision, and manage, but very much it's after its individual beneficiary registries are reporting to an IBR to enable a consolidated overview of what's actually has been provided. This can be within one department, it can be within a social protection ministry, or different elements, so that the different projects that a social protection ministry are doing, they can see if there is overlap between beneficiaries, and it also can be more widely across the social protection ecosystem involving health or labour ministries or social policy ministries. The crucial thing here is that it is actual program beneficiaries. It is people who have actually received assistance from a program. The key function is cross-program coordination, and the key element is benefit management and tracking. Now, one of the key things that we saw very much in this work is that while we have defined clearly the social registry and the IBR separately for their actual functional requirements, as is noted, they are part of a wider data protection delivery system or beneficiary management system. And so while they exist, they do have shared components, and they also are linking to ID systems, grievance redressant systems, individual program management information systems, and payment systems. And as we'll see in a bit later, how distinct they are is really a system design choice. In some contexts, the integrated beneficiary registry is a subset. It's the same data set as the social registry, but is just providing additional data on those fields. In others, there are integrated beneficiary registries, but no social registries, or they both exist, but they exist disconnected from each other. So the core components that we saw over and over again across this piece of work for both systems was obviously security and privacy. Both systems contain large amounts of personally identifiable data. For social registries, it is by definition can be covering almost the entire population of a country, including personally identifiable, biometrics, and geotagging data. So the security of that data is of absolute importance because it can contain millions of people. Obviously, data management is also crucially important. Both systems are designed to basically be integrating multiple data points. The social registry does have a registration element where they will be directly registering beneficiaries, but they will also be looking to be pulling via API data from other data sets. So the need for deduplication and unique identification management is critical for that, but also for IBR, that is also critical unless there is a standard, unless the individual beneficiary registries are already all using the same data frame and using the same common identifier. There's a need for the engines often to have a tool that can provide an integration. As I said, integration, analytics, user interface, and update management, key CMS elements that we would normally expect to see, are crucial for both these systems for going forward. Unique to each system, as I said, is for the social registry is data collection and intake. This is an absolutely critical element of what is seen. It's seen as, the need for systems that can do offline data collection, that can do both data collection via websites where people can update their their access and log in and update their data correctly, or bulk upload where teams have collected the data manually offline and then digitalized it and provided upload. And obviously, and document scanning is also seen as a critical component there. Needs assessment, actually being able to take that data and provide run analysis on the proxy needs testing data points that are collected, and taking that data set and being able to run different metrics on it to identify different populations who meet different needs. And also potentially outreach management. As I mentioned, these tools are, in an ideal world, are looking to be, there are mobile teams collecting data, enabling people to understand why this data is being collected, and also, crucially, is trying to keep this social registry dynamic, as in up to date. Because the challenge of these systems is not just the completeness, but the actual up to date, because they are trying to map a very dynamic world situation. People are being born and dying and moving constantly. And so that is crucial for them to be able to constantly be updating information, but then deciding on what data is the correct data to, which data point overrules and overwrites the other data is obviously critical there when update. For IBRs, that really is not their key focus. Their focus is on benefit coordination, payment tracking, service delivery monitoring, output, from a high level to the sustainable development goals to just practically who is actually providing what. There is an element of cross-program coordination. For example, in some countries where they would say, well, if this person is enrolled on program A, they should also likely be receiving assistance on program B. So that can identify if there are exclusion errors or other elements such as that. So again, two distinct elements there. When we talk about these systems, I mentioned this before, when we talk, there is a distinction here, which is worth noting that, like here we have three good examples of advanced digital social protection systems. And in Chile, they have their social registry, which is a universal coverage of the population, integration with 28 administrative districts, and has a dynamic registration system. But that system also includes an integrated beneficiary registry. It has a unified beneficiary view. It coordinates benefits across 80 programs. So that what you would see in Chile, they clearly have a distinct social registry and IBR. Now, in Turkey's system, they don't have such a distinction between it, as we're saying. They do have elements of a beneficiary registry, and the wider ecosystem, but it isn't so clearly distinguished that they are two different points there. And in Pakistan, where we have the National Socioeconomic Registry, which is very clearly a social registry, it does actually include elements or integration with a beneficiary management, but in this case only one program, which is the BISP, Beneficiary Income Support Program, which is an emergency cash transfer system. So theoretically, if it was linked to other programs, it could become an integrated beneficiary registry. At the moment, it is really acting and supporting just one beneficiary management system because it is only linked to one program for implementation. So as I mentioned, in this way, it's seen as a spectrum, and that's why some systems include some modules and some include other modules or different components of the tech stack there. Now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jerris, who's going to give us a very quick analysis of the preliminary findings from our work on looking at going from the functional requirements and looking at openIMIS and what would be the next steps potentially there. Jerris, can I hand over to you?
Thank you, Thomas. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Amazing. Okay, so basically, moving forward with the openIMIS, as Thomas has previously mentioned, we have assessed that as for two main systems, the IBR and the social registry. Moving forward, we have found the foundation core growth in the openIMIS that could be used to expand, to move toward new systems. Now, there are four elements of the growth of strength within the openIMIS current infrastructure. The first one is the analytics and reporting capabilities. There is already an integration with a reporting server of OpenSearch. So this reporting capability is already there. The multi-program support. Now, if we look at it in a different angle, openIMIS is a multi-program platform. It has the social protection element and the health insurance element. So it has a multi-program support, and the infrastructure is there to expand for more programs. The beneficiary management, which is also strong within the openIMIS as a component, and the existence of a strong API and REST foundation to build APIs within the openIMIS. All of those components, the four components, can be used as a building block, as a cornerstone to build for future development within the openIMIS to become an IBR and a social registry. What we recommend is we start with an IBR, and that is the natural growth of openIMIS to become an IBR. We start there because it is fully aligned with the current strength within openIMIS. It builds on the existing program management capabilities with all the multi-program beneficiary that's there, and the existence of REST APIs that can be expanded to cover the IBR, and it has a clear path for expansion within openIMIS. Now, what we need to enhance within openIMIS to become an IBR is the identity verification. So basically, and there is a distinction between the verification and the validation. We're about identity verification to make sure that those individuals are actual. They are actual of their actual identity. They are there. The system can verify their identity with external sources. Proper API management, as the IBR basically it captures data from multiple program systems, not only from within the same system. So it will need a proper program API management interface for the onboarding and for all the transactions with the registry. The other thing is to make sure that data protection and privacy framework is properly implemented and expanded there. One of the major issues with social protection systems is the absence of a proper data protection modules there. So the introduction of data protection module for data privacy, that is a very important element to add to the IBR. The other thing is the benefit coordination optimization engine, because this module is important to make sure that we know which households or individuals are getting which benefits of which programs, and because sometimes some programs would require single benefits, no duplication of benefits, and stuff like that, in addition to cross-program eligibility checking. Building there with a multi-program support infrastructure, we can build on openIMIS to become an IBR with the existence of OpenSearch, the API, and the payment track capabilities within the current openIMIS. Those are the things that we think we should move forward on with the openIMIS to become an IBR. Next, please. Okay. So next steps, the requirements has been already put on the wiki. All the mapping has already been there. We welcome everyone to comment, to provide feedback, that there's always a room for enhancement and further enhancements on the requirements. And we would love to be joining the discussions and together we can all guide the future development of openIMIS. Here is by the link for the wiki, and we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jairus. And we'll hand it back to you now, if that's okay, to moderate the discussion.